Hello, hello. Welcome back. This is Lauren Wilde with the Chiron Creative, and I'm super excited to have you. And so is Maui. If you guys haven't seen him yet, that is my cat slash familiar, and his favorite pastime is sitting on my head or near my head. So you'll see him a lot around here, and sometimes you'll see my other kitty Mercury in my lap. But let's go ahead and get into today's topic of conversation. And that is what the hell is spiritual entrepreneurship, anyways? I've had quite a few people reach out to me and say, Lauren, I've seen your new thing, but I don't know what Chiron is. And I don't understand the difference between spiritual entrepreneurship and any other kind of entrepreneurship. And they asked me to explain it. And I was like, you know what? That is a great topic for the podcast and to introduce the topic. So let's go ahead and get into it. I will first share a little bit of my story and my background, and then I'll get into all the nitty gritty details of, you know, what is it and what is its difference to regular entrepreneurship and what is the difference to regular small business, right? Or corporate business, because those are really important determining factors for me. And I'm going to go ahead and get into that now. So for some of you guys that don't know me, I am a astrologer and a teacher of the esoteric arts. I specialize in all kinds of animistic and pagan backgrounds, especially around the wheel of the year and feminine mysteries, but also tarot, astrology, oracle, Kabbalah, shadow work, anything Jungian oriented. My brain is super, super geared to that. And the Chiron piece is the aspect of really and truly being a Chironic healer and attracting a lot of Chironic healer students that end up going on and building really powerful spiritual practices that influence their families and their friends, and or eventually building a spiritual business. And so that's kind of how I got into this. My background was actually in evangelical Christianity. I was going down the pastor track, and actually I was actually going to school to be a psychotherapist. And then I actually dropped out of psychotherapy school to become a pastor. And then I dropped out of pastoral leadership to become a priestess. And that's a fun story. And I have that on my other podcast, Awaken with Lauren Wilde. And I share a lot more about those early stories when I was called the church witch. But for today, let's focus. Let's keep this focused on career and how you can apply it to yourself. So I really and truly have always been an entrepreneur. I just didn't know it. I've always been involved in leadership and wanting to have creative ideas and figure out how to make money doing it. So I was one of those kids that would figure out how to upcharge a candy bar to be able to make a profit, and all kinds of things, honestly, like that. I was selling jewelry. I had my first business when I was 15 years old, and it was a jewelry business. I made people charm bracelets and sold sterling silver jewelry with my mom, and carried that until I was about 17 years old. And then I started to get into different methods of leadership. And I came back around to spiritual, well, not technically spiritual, but entrepreneurship in about 2012. And I opened my first business, about 10 years later, called Burba's Botanicals. And it was an Etsy shop. And then it just went from there. So I've been building businesses, entrepreneur-based businesses for a while, but I hadn't gotten into spiritual entrepreneurship until about 2017, 2018. And there is actually a difference. There is a difference in these business models. And I want to share a little bit about how I became aware of the differences and why some work better for me and what I have found have been a lot of my ideal clients. And I want to share that with you guys. So first things first is to clearly define what the hell is spiritual entrepreneurship. And in order to do that, let's talk about what is just general entrepreneurship. And so, one of the things is that like an entrepreneur is an individual who identifies opportunities, takes risks, creates businesses, products, or services to bring innovative ideas to life. Entrepreneurs often operate in like dynamics or uncertain environments, assuming the responsibility for the financial, operational, and strategic aspects of their venture. So one of the like core traits of entrepreneurship is that there's like a shoestring budget and a lot of vision and a lot of passion and ambition to get it done. So that's like just one of the very first things, right? So some of the key traits is that they're visionary. They foresee market needs and craft solutions that fill gaps and create new opportunities before anybody else. They got the vision, okay? They're risk takers. This was really important. They're willing to take calculated risks to achieve their goals and pioneer new things, whether financial, personal, or reputation or legacy-wise. Number 3, they are innovative. So entrepreneurs are known for being creative and being out-of-box thinkers that, they bring that kind of unconventional approach to their ventures. Again, that's one of the core traits of an entrepreneur versus like a structured small business or especially a corporate business approach. Number 4, they're self-motivated. So entrepreneurs are driven by their goals. They are often very resilient in the face of challenge, and that's because you have to be. There is truly a difference. In my opinion, I think that the resiliency and the grit is what sets apart a successful entrepreneur or a hopeful entrepreneur. Because you really have to believe, you really have to be so married to your why and want to make that relationship work so bad that you're willing to work literally like sometimes 70 hours a week to get it off the ground. And I'm going to share a little bit about that here in a minute. And number 5, they're extremely resourceful. Entrepreneurs know how to effectively leverage limited resources and adapt to changes in order to grow their business. 120%, like just 120%, because they know that they don't have a lot of funding. They got a vision. But they don't usually have a lot of funds to get started, just a big hope, dream, wish, and hopefully some sort of plan. So some of the different types of entrepreneurs, other than just a spiritual entrepreneur, are small business entrepreneurs. So they run local businesses such as restaurant shops or other service providers. There are scalable startups entrepreneurs. So they aim to build high growth ventures, often with funding. Like a tech startup would be a version of that. Social entrepreneurs. So they focus on creating solutions to social or environmental impacts. These are people that could also get involved in becoming, an agent or, some sort of marketing or networking kind of person that they build their business on building a social profile and building networks, and then eventually turning that into some sort of income producing opportunity. And number 4 is a serial entrepreneur. So these are people, I like to call these multi-passionate entrepreneurs. And that is like they've always got new ventures. They are opening and selling their ventures, whether they are successful or not. But one of the key points of an entrepreneur is that entrepreneurs always say, we fail forward. There is no failure unless you quit. You just, renovate, you innovate, you get better with every experience. Nothing goes to waste in entrepreneurship. So number 5, and there's all kinds of other entrepreneurs, just so you guys know. But number 5 for this, just to keep it simple, is a spiritual entrepreneur. So a spiritual entrepreneur is a individual that sees the market for helping people heal or learn or break into emergent areas as spirituality is opening up and moving beyond, your conventional, more traditional forms of spirituality. And I mean, even when I was in Christianity, I saw all kinds of, Christian motivational pastors, sports people. They're very inspiring because they have a vision and they move towards it. But in the spiritual entrepreneurship world, it usually entails some sort of spiritual pathway that is informing it. So, for example, I am an astrologer and I teach the esoteric arts, and I have both an esoteric art school and a business school to help spiritual entrepreneurs, by the way. And not everybody is going to come into the esoteric arts and even want to study it in depth. I have so many clients that come in for one astrology reading, change their life, and I never see them again. I also have clients that come in one time a year to get their, yearly reading to know what's coming down the pipe. And then I don't see them again until January. And then, sometimes I have students that come in and they're seekers and they want to reinvent themselves and they want to learn the esoteric arts and they want to learn how to apply them to their lives and build meaningful spiritual practices, etc. And they want to be students. And then I have people that go all the way through those things, whether it's through me or some other spiritual practice, that want to find a way to package and harness not just their skills, but their spiritual gifts to be of service to other people, to be of service of the collective, whatever their particular modality is. And they want to turn it into a business that has a healthy and livable wage, often so that they can quit their soul-sucking corporate job because they're just not meant for that. So those are some of the things, right? So I've had so many different people that have Reiki businesses. So we, build an offer and figure out how to scale it for in-person and online. We figure out if they're just going to do the services and take people through it in an experiential way, or if they're going to teach, right? And so there's all kinds of different ways to really and truly leverage the market in the world of spiritual entrepreneurship. But it is rooted in some pretty core concepts. Number one is that it is spiritual in nature. Number two is that it is some sort of craft that you have experience with or have mastered and can either teach it or apply it or coach people through it, etc. The other thing is that it is usually tied to some sort of spiritual pathway. So examples of this would be yoga. So anybody, that opens a yoga studio technically is a spiritual entrepreneur. Anybody that opens any kind of, center for meditation or Buddhism or Chinese medicine, again, a spiritual entrepreneur. Now, can we transition from entrepreneurship into small business? Absolutely. But do we start at small business or do we start as entrepreneurship? In my opinion, is key, because the thing that is entrepreneurial is that it's startup concept. There is not, some sort of franchise or super built out business plan that has a bunch of funding behind it to get it off the ground. Usually it is a vision, a hope, a wish, hopefully a plan, and very little budget. Just a lot of elbow grease, a lot of getting things done, a lot of resiliency, and a lot of commitment to the vision. Okay. So some of these core traits, would be the ability to identify problems and develop solutions, the ability to build and lead teams, huge, acquiring resources, including funding like grants, being able to navigate market trends by looking at it, recognizing what's coming forward, and figuring out how to manage and scale your operation into something that actually makes money. So entrepreneurship is not just about starting a business. The key thing of understanding is that it is a mindset of innovation, resilience, and a drive to be of service and create some sort of value that you see is not yet existing or could be done better by you. So it is truly, entrepreneurship is like a mindset. It really is. So keep that in mind as we continue to progress. A spiritual entrepreneur, they are very purpose driven. So their work is deeply rooted in some sort of mission that feels like serving the higher good, such as helping others, creating organizations or communities to be in support to people, fostering growth, and creating positive impacts, not just on the collective, but the people that they work with. To see people, attain their sense of purpose and up-level their lives is a core trait. Another is that they're very heart-centered. So a spiritual entrepreneur makes a lot of decisions and takes a lot of actions that are guided by their intuition, their vision, empathy, intuition, right? Like they're driven a lot by compassion and really wanting to see solutions that are very heart-centered. And they're spiritual. They have faith, they have belief in something bigger that is moving. Okay. They have a lot of integrity. So values-based leadership is really a core part of spiritual entrepreneurship. A lot of us operate with principles like integrity and trust, and teaching people how to trust themselves, sovereignty, collaboration, being heart-centered, and always like being in some sort of service, some sort of spiritual service, or some sort of devotion to some sort of, spiritual belief or concept or vision. There's almost always a conscious approach, hopefully, that often incorporates things like mindfulness, being intention, manifestation, well-being, holistic approaches. And then there is hopefully also a balance of material and spiritual. So a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs seek to create sustainable businesses while making sure that they are in integrity and that they are also in alignment with their own spiritual beliefs, practices, and concepts. Okay. So there's like so many different ways that you can get into spiritual entrepreneurship. It could be that you create, books, you create workshops. It could be that you create PDFs to teach, small short form. It could be that you get into podcasting, YouTube channels, all the way to building schools and focusing on education, where you may teach different spiritual skills or concepts, or even offer things like coaching or yoga or Reiki, human design, all kinds of different things. But there is like that aspect of being service-based, meaning that you are taking people through your experiences, right? And then there is teaching-based, which is you're teaching people things. Then there's also things like products. A lot of people will do things like, create bath, like bath blends, botanical bath blends, or make spell candles, or offer things like tarot readings or astrology readings, all the way out to building communities. So creating spaces that are sort of like church, but not, to create, safe spaces for people, or different things like retreats or experiences, right? So a lot of the ways that spiritual entrepreneurs are guided is, to move with their intuition and their sense of internal flow. A lot of spiritual entrepreneurs are very connected to their intuition and their ability to trust themselves and their vision to continue to lead them forward. Because you really, truly have to love what it is that you're in service to, or it is not going to get you through the hard parts. Okay. Like you really have to believe in your offer, your vision, and what you believe is going to help and how it's going to help people. Okay. And then, one of the other core things about, spiritual entrepreneurs that is different is that a lot of them structure their business around their own personal rhythms and cycles, their values, their spiritual beliefs, their integrity, their ethics. That is one of the big key points, is to be able to live a life that is cohesive of both personal life and also their work. Now, as a person that turned my hobby into my career, I will tell you that there are a lot of positives and negatives to that. One is I get to do what I love all the time. But another is that, like, I hardly have a spiritual practice at this point anymore, besides being in service to my students and my clients, which is extremely meaningful. But my practices are shit most of the time. So I definitely move with the wheel of the year. I have at least 8 really important Sabbath-based ceremonies a year. Those keep me going. But a lot of what I'm doing is teaching people how to do it. And that is also very fulfilling. But it's kind of like, I'm a 500-hour yoga instructor. We always say that, like, the moment you become a yoga teacher, the moment your practice goes out the door, because at the time that you would be doing your own flow, you're teaching it. So, you might as well do the flow with them, because otherwise you're probably not going to be doing it. So those are just some of those, like, basic things that I would say are very, like, core traits of an entrepreneur and a spiritual entrepreneur. Let's talk about the difference between being small business and definitely corporate. So last year, 2024, I got sick. I have a mystery autoimmune disease. I don't know what it is still, but last year I was really sick. Also, the South Node was going over my Mercury and my Sun the entire year. So I know I was definitely doing a lot of karmic purging in astrology speak. But essentially, I realized when I was really sick that I was doing too much, and I had too many offers, that it was confusing, not only to my ideal clients, but also to me as a creator. So, like, I really had to figure out what I was going to do. And there was a period of time when I was sick where I was like, maybe I should just get a job, because I'm not going to lie to you guys. You have to be resilient when you're an entrepreneur, because you are the one that's in charge, which is a positive, because you have control over your schedule. You get to do what you love. But also, if you're not doing it, bills don't get paid, especially in the very beginning. So it is a real thing where you recognize you are responsible for your success, period. You are responsible for your success. And so last year, when I was really struggling with my health, I considered, taking my leadership skills and my creativity into a more corporate workplace so that I could heal. Well, I started doing all the research and just looking at all the things and looking at, like, the pricing and how much people get paid and how much vacation they get. And I was like, damn, I am an entrepreneur. Like, I'm really and truly an entrepreneur. Could I get contracted into corporate businesses? Absolutely, as long as I get to do the things that I do. Yes, but I am not built for corporate structures. I am not built to, obtain the upholding structures of the patriarchy and over productivity and being out of cycles and seasons and et cetera, et cetera. So it really, really opened my eyes during this process of recognizing I really need to be home. I have 3, about to be 6 boys, and I need to be home. I built my business to be online. I built my business to support me, and I need to reconstruct what I'm doing to make it easier and more of an advantage to me. And truly, it was the best decision that I made, because it put me on the path that I'm on now. And I feel the most clear right now in my offerings, my career, and the work that I'm doing than I ever have in my entire life. Because the truth is, all of my programs have been setting people up to build businesses that they want, literally since I started. It's just that was not, like, the main focus. The main focus was teaching the esoteric arts and helping people reclaim themselves and decondition from high control religion and relationships. But almost always they wanted to eventually convert their experience into a business. And so help people build, moon circles and covens and schools and courses. So I was doing it. It just wasn't my signature offer. And so because of my experience last year of looking into things like small business and also corporate, it was really important for me to make such a clear distinction between what is an entrepreneur and what is corporate and what is small business. And so the core thing I want you guys to walk away with today is that entrepreneurship is visionary. It is very ambitious. It is a rush. It allows you to be super creative, but it also requires you to be disciplined and to have a focus and to know your why and to push through hardship and to recognize that it's not failure unless you quit. Okay. So that's a big difference. Whereas in small business, usually they have some pretty significant business plans, some funding, and then they have boards. And it's not that entrepreneurs can't build boards, but it is very much required. They're usually, on the Better Business Bureau, et cetera. Again, not that entrepreneurs can't do that and shift into small business. But a lot of times entrepreneurs want to create and create and create and create. They don't want to get stuck. They want to sell the thing that they created and they want to move on to the next thing. And that is why I say all the time that I truly believe that real entrepreneurs are ADHD, which I call compulsive creative syndrome, compulsive creator syndrome, because there's just infinite things to create. And we are so good at pattern recognition and seeing what the problems are and coming up with innovative solutions, to solve those problems that are unconventional in ways that other people don't think of. But I'll rant about that another day. So my big thing that I wanted to talk about today is what separates us, right? And how do you get started? So the next question is, how do you get started, right? Like what does it take to start an entrepreneur-based business? And the first thing that it takes is a vision. It takes you being able to name some sort of problem or challenge that you see that you have a solution for. That's the very first thing that it requires. Vision. You don't have to know every single step of how it's going to happen. We say it a lot, like a lot of entrepreneurs build airplanes in the sky, not on the ground for takeoff. They're in the sky already. And they have, a resiliency to see that problem have a unconventional solution that they innovate or engineer. So those are just like some of the very basic things about it. The next thing is, if you don't have an LLC, to build your LLC and to figure out if you want to build it all on your own or if you want to hire somebody to help you structure and plan your business so that you don't have to learn a lot of hard mistakes that are expensive and time consuming, etc., which is why I built my business. So this is where I will make my shameless plug. Listen, guys, if you are looking to find a coach, a teacher, a mentor, a guide to help you get your emergent business off the ground, make it successful, have a lot of high touch support, I'm your coach. I'm your guide. This is stuff that, I create things, and this is part of the Chiron piece, is that we are called to create what did not exist when we were in that problem. We are the ones that are meant to create the solutions, the communities, the books, the resources, the schools that we needed when we were in our crisis, when we were in our problem or our challenge or our underworld, our descent. And we are the ones that are meant to engineer it because they weren't there for us in that time. So our job as Chiron creators is to create the solution that you needed in your descent and help other people move through it with support and wisdom and learned experience. So my hope today is that you guys feel inspired to recognize whether you have those leadership, visionary, creative instincts within you, to recognize if you are hungry to build something that has purpose, to be your own boss, to have freedom over your schedule, and to build an offer that is deeply purposeful and meaningful to you on a soul level. So again, I will put the details below if you guys are looking for support. I'm your girl. I'm your Chiron coach. So I hope this is helpful, and we will continue showing up here every single week. I would love to start getting some questions from you guys so that we can start to build this out in a way that is supportive to all of you. I hope that you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.